But she really has a beautiful voice. She sings with us if it's a family thing. Pate played the acoustic rhythm guitar and sang the melody. I sang the high harmony and Susie sang the low. People used to ask Daddy where us kids got our talent. He'd say, oh, they got it from their mama. That's so, but we got our lungs from Daddy, and we exercised them early and often during those early years up in the hills gathering cattle and becoming lost, when that famous McEntire yell saved our hides more than once. But it was Mama who taught us kids to sing harmony. I think that bloodline harmony is a special harmony. The McGuire sisters have it, the Gatlin brothers have it, and so did the singing McEntires. It's the closest harmony in the world. Mama became very excited about how we'd taken to music, but she wished that we could get more formal musical training. At our school, there wasn't a marching band or even much of music curriculum. Fortunately, that changed when Clark Ryan came to Kiowa High School. He had been a McEntire family friend for years. In addition to being a teacher, Clark is a professional musician, a fiddle and guitar player who played in honky-tonks around Oklahoma when I was a girl. Clark started teaching at Kiowa High School in 1969 when I was 14. At that time, Mama was working as a secretary to the superintendent of our school, the late Harold Toaz. So with Clark's cooperation, she pitched her boss on the notion of setting up a school country music band. And he said, well, we just might do it. Mr. Toaz's main concern was cost. But we were able to equip 5 musicians with 3 string guitars, an electrical bass, 3 drums, 3 microphones, and 4 amplifiers for about $500. Our first order of business as a band was to decide who could play what. Kelly Ryan and David Jones became our drummers. They took turns, of course. Pate knew how to play the acoustic guitar, and Gary Rayburn became our electric guitar player. Carol Johnson, my cousin Dinah K. Smith, and I were the girl singers, and my sister Susie would join us when she got to junior high school. Pate was the lead singer and also our band leader. We didn't have a bass player, but Roger Wills wanted to try it. Today, Roger is one of the top bass players in Nashville. He was with me for 5 years and now is the band leader for Alan Jackson. Kelly Ryan was not only one of our drummers, but more important, he was my second serious boyfriend. He was also a wonderful kisser. Kelly and I wrote love notes back and forth to each other, and he introduced me to Three Dog Night in Chicago, rock and roll bands with great harmony. When he wasn't playing with us, he was playing bigger jobs that paid more. He was that good. Our band's repertoire really had a range to it. Of the 8 band members, Kelly, Roger, David, and Gary were into rock and roll. Pate, Carol, Diana Kay, and I wanted to do country. So we compromised. Once we got going, the band entertained at all major school functions. We also played at all the school's football games, performing before the kickoff and at halftime. Clark Ryan said, and the band was so much better than the football team that at halftime, if they didn't quit playing, everybody would be down there watching the band and nobody was watching the football game. We had tremendous success for a group of high school kids. The Kiowa High School Cowboy Band grew so popular that it landed some real paying jobs in honky-tonks and dance halls. Now, we couldn't have gotten away with that in Tulsa or Oklahoma City because all of us were minors, too young to legally be inside those places. But in the small towns, it was different. Usually we were asleep by the time we got out of the parking lot of the club. We were a bunch of kids barely in puberty who didn't get to bed until almost daylight after some of our shows. The club audiences could be rough, but they gave us good training in how to work a crowd. Some of those dances turned into fistfights set to music. More often than not, it was so dark in those clubs, we couldn't even see them fighting. We just thought they were all dancing, and we played right through it. When the truth was too obvious to ignore, Clark would tell us, if a fight breaks out to the left, you go to the right. Don't stand there and watch it. Take everybody's attention to the other direction. So we did. Pake remembers a show where Mama told us on the way home that she thought the crowd really enjoyed our music. Why? He asked. Because I counted 14 fights, she said. We were playing in clubs at the time when I was baptized at the Kiowa First Baptist Church and was getting really serious about the right and wrong things in life. One Saturday night when we played Sulphur, I told Mama that when I got on stage, I planned to ask the audience if they were going to go to church the next morning. She just looked at me and smiled. Reba, she said, What makes you think those people don't go to church every Sunday?" Well, I was stunned. I never thought of that. "Do you think they do?" I said. "I don't know. But before I got up and started preaching to them and tell them how bad they are, I'd sure find out." That was my first lesson about not judging people. How did I know what they did when they left the honky-tonk? And anyway, it wasn't any of my business. Pate graduated high school 3 years after the band was formed, and shortly thereafter the Kiowa High School band disbanded. It was never reassembled. While I do have sentimental memories about the group, I can't really vouch for its musical greatness. Recently someone asked Pate, "That band was popular, but was it any good?" "Well, we thought that Nashville was going to be coming through that door any minute and signing every one of us up," Pate said. "Did you ever make a demo or anything?" "No," Pate said, "but we made a tape one time." "Have you listened to it since?" He said, "I listened to it about 5 or 6 years ago. It sounded like a train wreck." Along with singing, basketball, rodeos, and school, I still helped out at the ranch, as we all did. My responsibilities continued even after I left for college. Not that I minded, it takes a lot of hands to run a ranch, and besides I understood that a college tuition would put my folks under considerable economic strain. Although they would eventually reach a level of financial comfort as Daddy parlayed his rodeo earnings into new tracts of land and more cattle, it was a slow build and I wanted to do my share. I went to college in Durant at Southeastern Oklahoma State University, where my major field of study was elementary education and my minor was music. I received my bachelor's degree but never taught school. Durant is about 15 miles from Caddo, Oklahoma, where Daddy ran 200 or 300 steers on some land he leased. "Reba," Daddy said, "it's more handy for you to drive 15 miles every other day to feed those steers than it is for me to drive 45. I said I'd do it. Daddy bought me a black Ford pickup when I graduated from high school. Every other day I'd load about 30, 50-pound sacks of feed into that truck by myself and feed Daddy's steers. I never lost one steer in the 3.5 years it took me to earn my undergraduate degree. The most fun I had while taking care of the cattle was when my roommates and buddies would go with me. One of my roommates, Cindy Blackburn, was a beautiful girl who was always dressed to the max and was a member of one of the campus sororities. One day, Brenda Lee, my roommate in college, and my best friend since the 5th grade, Karen Watkins, my downstairs neighbor, and Cindy and I went to Caddo to feed the steers. We'd had a pretty good day of rain the day before. The dirt in Caddo, Oklahoma, turns to black, gummy mud, and it's real easy to get stuck. I was driving, and the girls were in the back of the truck when I hit a boggy spot. The tires started spinning, and we began to slow down. I hollered at the girls to jump out and push. Now, Brenda and Karen knew better. They'd been there before. They stayed in the truck. But Cindy jumped out in her sorority sweatshirt and saddle Oxford and began pushing with all her heart. When we got out of the boggy spot, I looked back and Cindy was standing there, feet apart, arms out, and covered in black mud. From then on, she always rode in the front of the truck. Of course, I was dating a few guys, having my first serious grown-up romances, and I continued to sing. This was also the first time that I'd ever formally studied music. It was new, unfamiliar, and I learned plenty. During my sophomore year at SOSU in 1974, I had been talking about going up to the National Finals Rodeo in Oklahoma City in December. Daddy asked me, "Why don't you get a job up at the finals? Do something more than just having a big time." I was getting smart enough to know that Daddy knew I wanted to go up and just have a big time. But he was making a point, and I knew I should pay attention. "What do you think I should do?" I said. "Why don't you sing the national anthem?" he said. Well, it seemed like a good idea to me. With the Star-Spangled Banner, everyone stands up, stays quiet, and the best part for any performer, there are 20,000 ears tuned to you. So I called Clem McSpadden, a rodeo announcer who we'd known for years. With Clem's help, I was hired. The NFR is the World Series of Rodeo. It was exciting to be there, and while I didn't know it at the time, it was my first big break. I'll never forget how nervous I felt driving up there with Mom and Daddy. What happened on the day we were supposed to rehearse didn't help my nerves either. I'd gone around